Literally are recording. We're live, so you're on camera.
Have you ever wondered what the perspective would be from somebody who has experienced homelessness but also gotten out and seen success afterward? Well, today we have that story. My friend Gallo here has experienced homelessness in his past and is going to share his story with us. And he's also a good friend of mine, and he's going to be part of the team as time goes on. So, welcome, Gallo.
Nate, thanks for having me. Uh, yeah, this has been a long time coming. Almost 9 months. Yeah, it's almost like a baby because we met up with each other summer-ish last year. I have my own podcast. It's not even related to this. Just we used to work together, and seeing what he was doing. It took me a while even just to get a hold of him because he was already getting popular. He was getting big. And the funny thing is, I had him saved on my phone, but not as Nate, cool cat from this place we used to work at. And finally got a hold of him. We had lunch, started shooting the breeze, and catching up on ideas and what he wants to do and how I wanted to help. And now we finally have the chance to sit down and do that. So I appreciate the offer. I appreciate the opportunity, Nate. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries, man. And thank you because all of this setup and everything that's going on here, it's mostly been this guy and his guidance. So he's really helping the Just Nate podcast get off the ground. And thanks, man. I wouldn't be able to do it without you, honestly.
No, you
Not
got
to this level. No, I mean, I appreciate it. And not just me. Everybody does. You're part of the team, man. Um, so, yeah, dude, I know you've had a lot of time to think about this because it's been how many years since, you were outside?
more than 10 because my memory's a little fuzzy. So I've had several motorcycle accidents. But I kind of have more of a feel of when things happen. So at least 10 years. I know it was after I got divorced. So between 2010 and 2012 was when I was outside.
And just to, preface you guys, uh, it, we're going to refer to a lot of being inside or outside. And that's a term that is used widely by homeless people. And really, they look at us as inside people, people who live inside and they live outside. So, just to give you something there. So, what was it like? And how did it happen? What made it happen?
What made it happen was short version is my intercourse addiction, being a sex addict. Uh, I was a cheater with my first wife, and I thought that that's just me being a man. My value as a human, my value as a man, wasn't anything I did other than how many women I've been with. Being able to brag or boast about that was kind of my uh, how I saw my value. And my wife got tired of that, kicked me out. We got divorced, and in the divorce decree, she was supposed to pay off my truck. The agreement was she gets to keep the house, but she's going to pay off my truck. And I kept on top of that for a couple of months, like making sure she paid it and checking and checking. And eventually I saw that she was paying on it. So I figured, okay, she's going to be good. I don't have to check it on anymore. And I had an opportunity to go work down in the Texas Mexico border, down in the valley, as it's called there. So the Rio Grande Valley is made up of a bunch of little towns. So the U.S. highway system, every exit is roughly a mile apart. So exit 34 is 34 miles from the state line, from where that interstate begins. So the towns, it's kind of funny the way the mindset is down in the Rio Grande Valley. The most of the locals have very cliquish, standoffish type point of view to people in general. Uh, I'd go down there when I was working. I'd visit and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm here from out of town, from Houston. Where's a good place to go eat? What's a good place to go do this, that, or the other?" And oftentimes the reaction I was get, "Oh, you think you're too good to hang out or do anything?" I was like, "I don't think anything. I just want to find a place to eat, go to a bar, whatever." So that's part of the mentality. Another thing is the towns are like about a mile apart, and there's a town, a town with the Lowe's, a town with nothing, a town with Home Depot, and another town. So 5 cities, right? Mile apart each, 5 miles apart. If someone lives on this side of the Home Depot, they'll go to Home Depot. They will not go to Lowe's because Lowe's is too far. That's a 4 mile drive. That's too far. So that's kind of the mentality, the closed offishness, the cliquishness that's kind of down there. Um, so while I was down there and working, uh, I had a per diem and I was staying in a hotel room, and my truck got stolen. I'm like, shit, what am I going to do? How am I going to get to work? A lot of my tools were in there.
And were you living in the truck at that point?
No, 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 no. At that point, I was already, no, I never lived in a truck. So
Okay.
I went basically straight to homelessness or being outside. Uh, what caused that was the truck wasn't paid on. The ex-wife didn't pay on the truck, went into default, got repoed, and I thought it was stolen. So I made a police report, got arrested because they were able to check real quick. Hey, they checked the VIN number, the license plate, find out that it's been towed. And so they thought I was trying to do an insurance scam. So I got arrested for that, had to deal with that for a couple of days. And of course, by the time I got let out, lost my job, but I still had the hotel room that was paid up for like the following week because the type of person like to pay my bills ahead of time.
Yes.
So all the money I got or what I get paid, I had that hotel room for like 3 weeks in advance that was paid off. So by the time I was out, I had almost a week left. I go back to the hotel room, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. No job, no car, no tools. I call the job and they say, yeah, you can come to work, but you need your tools. No tools, no job, right? And I thought, well, what if I work as a helper? It's like, yeah, well, we can get you on as a helper with no tools, but you're not going to get per diem because helpers don't get per diem because the helpers were hired locally. So that was just kind of like, well, shit, I'm just going to be working to have a place to live. And at the time, my mindset was like, no, like this hotel room is crap. Like I don't want to stay in this hotel room or work just to be able to stay in this hotel room. I want to work to be able to have money to go do things and whatnot. Just kind of wallowing in the situation I was in that I'm jobless, no vehicle, nothing essentially. The kind of the story or the horror story you hear about guys that get divorced and just end up with nothing at the end, right?
Yeah, yeah. I hear that a lot out there, man. I
Yeah.
really do.
I blew off the notice from the hotel management of me trying to get out and leave, so I just kind of stayed in the room, and I think I put it off for an extra 2 or 3 days. So I should have been kicked out, say Friday or Saturday, and I pushed it off till a couple of days later. They got the sheriffs involved, got me evicted or kicked out. And so there I was on the street trying to figure out now what? What do I do now? Because I wasn't being proactive. I was just being reactive to everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And I still had some cash in my pocket. A couple of bucks, maybe like $5 or $6 cash. I still had my wallet. And fortunately at the time, Chase Bank had started offering a thing where you can deposit cash. So again, this is back in 2010. So 10ish years ago, we're talking about smartphones are still kind of new. Um, different time, right? So there's no social media. If I even wanted someone to send me money, they'd either have to do a wire transfer from bank to bank, which you have to go to the bank and do that kind of thing, or I might have been able to get someone to send me a PayPal. But PayPal back then was still set up where you had to log in through your email, log into the website, and transfer it over to your bank, which is still a couple of days to transfer it over.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't have a smartphone, so what we take for granted now that we can do anything on our phones. Back then, it was just basically a Nokia that I had. So there's no actually it was a Nextel. Sorry, it was a Nextel that I had. So there was no way for me to actually log on and do any transfers or do anything for money, even if I was had thought to ask for money, because I've heard that a lot where people, why don't you ask someone to send you money? It's like that's a modern problem. This was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, so there was a lot of things that just kind of I didn't think of doing. One of them was asking for help. That was the biggest one because I was still too prideful to ask for help. Uh, and so there I am, just kind of walking around, wandering the streets, not asking for money, not panhandling, not flying a sign yet because I was just still kind of in shock, trying to figure out what am I going to do.
Where'd you sleep the first night?
It was behind a building. I can picture it. It wasn't a hotel. It was kind of like a little shopping strip where a street light was out. So it was kind of like a row behind a shopping center, and there was like two street lights that were out, but they weren't next to each other. So I just picked the darker one and went to sleep because at the time I was still used to being inside, so I was used to having a dark room to sleep, and a street light. It feels like you're still in daylight. So it was just trying to find the most comfortable thing that was most resembling to being inside in a dark room to be able to sleep.
And what did you have with you? Did you have a blanket?
No, I just had some clothes, and this is also kind of like in the middle of summer down there, so it's
It's
Yeah,
warm.
yeah, it's warm enough. It's not chilly, it's cool from time to time, but for the most part, it's just hot.
I guess you were fortunate about that. That's the time of year it was.
Well, even in Texas, like most of the year in Texas, is warm. Of course, here in Reno, for us, cold is cold. The coldest it gets, at least where I'm used to in Houston, there's probably 5 to 7 non-consecutive days that hit below 30. So, and that's like, oh my God, it's freezing, it's cold. But
It doesn't typically last.
usually it stays 40s, 50s for the lows and gets up into the 60s in winter. But like low 60s, high 50s. So it's not super cold in the winter. It's just cooler than what we're used to. But so in the valley, it's even warmer. Um, I don't know what the temperatures were, but it was still kind of hot, middle of summer, middle of spring. I forget the time of year. So that first night, sleeping outside and couldn't get comfortable because I'm sleeping on concrete. So I'm still used to being inside, still used to the things I'm supposed to have as a person, as a human living indoors. And I might have slept 2 hours that night just because so uncomfortable. I'd hear a noise and just jump up because I'm not used to hearing stuff outside, right? I think that third day I was finally getting hungry. And that's when I flew a sign. And that for me was like the biggest point of my pride. Like as a man, having to finally say, you know what? I need to ask for help. And there I was for probably an hour, first trying to figure out what to write down. And like, oh shit, I need to get cardboard to write something down. And then trying to find the Sharpie. And fortunately, I still didn't smell bad enough, or, because outside for a couple of days, but I wasn't ripe. I was just kind of, a little funky. So I was able to go inside grocery stores, get some stuff, or convenience stores. Got a Sharpie, made a sign. And it wasn't clever. It was just like, uh, need help getting back to Houston or need money to get back to Houston, something like that. Just remember Houston was in it. And didn't get a lot of response from that because that closed mindedness. So, and I remember, before I was outside, the way I would treat most other homeless people, because it's kind of the same thing that most people do. The average person just like, oh God, get away from me. Ooh, another one of them. Uh, and, well, shit, what should I write down to try to get some money? But getting to that point to actually write something down on that cardboard was the biggest stab, kind of like in my heart, in my chest, in my pride, in my manhood, like everything that I valued in myself, that I saw myself as a person. Now I'm less than because I have to ask for help.
So did you have to rewrite the sign to like did you try a couple different versions of
Yeah.
that?
I went from need help getting home to Houston, bus ticket to Houston. Uh, I know the first two had something about Houston in it. The third one, I don't remember what it was. Trying to be funny, nothing. And money or food was what I finally settled on. And it wasn't even money; it was like dollar signs or food. And I just had that, and it was tough for me that first day holding that sign, or actually the first day that I finally had that sign. I think it was a fourth day from when I was out.
And you're starving at this point, right?
I was, because that first day I was able to use the couple of bucks that I had to get some snacks, candy, whatever.
Did you find water?
As an electrician, you got to work with other trades. I have what's it called? It's a four-way key, and it's one of those. Looks like a little cross or a plus sign, and that is able to open up water for commercial buildings. So they don't have the little handle on it. It just has like a little hole that's usually either a square or a triangle shape inside of it.
So you had that key that could get you water from commercial buildings and
Yeah.
stuff.
So I was able to get water. I was able to drink water throughout the day. Able to like splash water on my face because I'm kind of just roasting in the sun and whatnot. And I still had some clothes. I had like it was a duffel bag, but it was kind of like a military style, like a sling type duffel. So I had that with me, and I forgot when it got stolen, but it got stolen when I was sleeping because I didn't know that I needed to like lay on top of my stuff to keep people from just grabbing my shit. And I got woke, and the reason I realized it got stolen is because somebody was trying to take off my shoes while I was asleep.
So while you were sleeping, someone tried to steal your shoes
Yeah.
off of your feet.
And it took me a while to realize what was going on. So they took off running.
Were they nice shoes?
No, it was the boots because they'd loosened it up, but they couldn't get it under my heel.
Okay, I was gonna say if they were boots, man, that would have to be really hard.
Because I can picture it that I was trying to get up after them once I realized, but that my shoelaces weren't tied, and I was like tripping over them, and just remembered, okay, you know what, just need to tie them a little tighter. When I came back to where I was at, then I realized I don't have my backpack anymore, so I just had the clothes I was with, and this is probably my full week outside, um, getting money. And some days I'd get $6 or $7, just enough to grab something to eat.
Yeah, and back then you could get a meal with
Yeah,
$6.
5, 6. Well, we're not talking about the value menu or the kids meal. We're talking, uh, Whopper meal or Mickey D's meal, whatever, just a full, yeah, just a full meal, adult size meal. Just flying the sign, getting a little money here and there between $5 and $60. I think my best day was just under 200. And so what I would do is the bills I would put in my bank account because again, this is when it kind of started with being able to deposit cash and checks at banks or at ATMs. Since I still had my debit card, fortunately, I was smart enough to put my wallet in my front pocket. So if because I'm a kind of face down sleeper, so it's kind of face down but on my side, kind of. Um, and so had my wallet in my front pocket so they weren't able to just fish it out real quick. Had that, made my deposits every day. And so my change, the loose change, is what I would use to buy food. And some days I'd have, $12 in change. Other days I'd have, $1 in change, right? The worst part for me, or the biggest gut wrenching part, was having to use the restroom outside because by that point, nobody wanted me inside their convenience store. I looked dirty. I smelled bad.
Number one outside.
Yeah, for guys, it's not a big deal. You just go against a tree, whatever. But having to pop a squat behind a bush somewhere semi kind of private, which is still difficult.
I hear a lot of the people out here, they are lucky enough to be able to go into like a casino or something like that. And that's why it's rare somebody even asks me for toilet paper. It's weird, but yeah, because I've offered and people are like, no, I know where to go. I have a place. Like they all kind of have it figured out. But I mean, casinos, we have a lot of more options here. You probably didn't have anything
No,
like that
I
there.
mean, there it's all just shopping strips, convenience stores, gas stations.
Well, and on that note, I mean, when I was in Sacramento during into 2020, almost 2021, all the gas stations everywhere like that, they had no public restrooms. Everyone shut them down, not for public use. So, and I don't know if they're still like that or not or whatever, but I mean, depending on where you're at, yeah, there's no access.
The gas stations, some had public restrooms, like the bigger ones, like the name brand type ones, but the ones that are smaller, Habibi, whatever you want to call them, um, those are like no restroom for the public.
Yeah.
But even the ones that were bigger, once I walked in, I mean, it was just like a cloud of just musk that would just follow me. It was like pig pen. Yeah, people would just turn and look, and the look on their face, like, oh, fuck, it hurt because I remember giving that look to homeless people beforehand, when I was, and now I'm getting it. I'm like, fuck, I can't believe I did this. And I was still new to it. I know there are people that are outside that they don't care anymore. Like there's some people that just, it doesn't bother them because they're either so used to it, they're desensitized, whatever. Like everyone's different when you're outside because, um, you know, everyone has a different reason that they're outside. Some it's drug addiction or chemical, sorry, alcoholism. Others mental illness, and then others just hard times. It's kind of like the three, as far as I know, the kind of the three major categories. You can get a little more granular with it, but for the most part, it's one of those three that put them outside. And the ones that have a hard time, they still kind of move almost like inside people still. They still have their little sense of pride. They want to be well groomed. They want to have cleanish clothes. They don't want to, they still want to be presentable ish for whatever reason. Mental illness, I guess they don't care. They're just not there. Um, and then some of it could be caused by whatever drug or chemical addiction they have, that they go off the deep end and then they snap and they don't come back down, whatever. But for the most part, it's either mental break, addiction, or kind of like my situation, just hard times. So yeah, having to go outside, and because Texas is so big. So like here in Reno, I mean everything's kind of closest together. I can't think of a shopping strip that resembles Texas other than there's there could be a Walmart in a parking lot, and then where a normal Walmart parking lot ends, then there'll be maybe like a little tree line of little islands, and then there's another parking area that has a shopping strip. So the closest one would be here in Reno, the one that's off of Kitski and Virginia, or Kitski and where like the famous Dave's. Yeah. So imagine that shopping strip there, and then every shopping strip in Reno is like that. So to get from Famous Dave's to TJ Maxx, you're walking 10 minutes just across the parking lot, right? And then to get to the Walmart, it's still another 5 or 10 minutes just to get to there because everything's so spread out. There's so much room in Texas. And so the valley is kind of like that as well. It's a little closer, but all the shopping strips are just enormous. There's so much room for parking. Like if you don't have a car, you're not going to get around.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard people say in Texas, like everything's an hour away. Like wherever you want to go, if you're going to go from one city to the next, like everything's super far.
At least in the major cities. In the valley, you can get across in a few minutes, but it's still, you're talking a few minutes in a car.
And did you stay in the same area the entire time?
I moved around.
What was like your radius?
About 4 miles, 4 or 5 miles. So I went between Donna, Far, Alamo. It's three little cities that are kind of together. So it's, one exit past the other. And the cities are kind of like on a grid system still.
Yeah.
And so some grids or some blocks are bigger than others, but it's still kind of just all squares. Other than the newer subdivisions are kind of curved. But for most part, as far as businesses go, I was trying to just kind of go back and forth and find a good spot, because then I get run off too. Because there's some that have their spot and, hey, this is my spot, blah, 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 blah. Oh man, like it's territorial, and I get it.
Around here, a lot of people are really cool. Like they'll actually like have like kind of time frames. Like you're gonna get a couple hours, I'm gonna get a couple hours, and everyone for the most part shares. And then someone new comes around and they take over and they're like, nah, this is mine. And it doesn't work out well for them.
Some of them were confrontational because they were mental illness. So at least the some of the spots that I was trying to go to, they were like, this is my spot all the time. Like, I don't care. Even if I'm not here, it's still my spot. Like there's that kind of possessiveness, because there's, what else do you have? You have to hold on to something. You have to protect it. So that's kind of that thing. Like, hey, sorry, I'm new. I just got out here, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you're new, you need to go fuck over there and da, 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 and could kind of get the vibe that, hey, no, this person's unstable. Don't want to have any confrontation with them. And then there's others that I was able to have a conversation with that were also hard times.
What's the worst thing that happened to you, or worst thing that was given to you, or the whatever? What was the worst when you were flying a sign?
Leftovers, half-eaten stuff. The first time I was kind of grossed out, like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why would I want to eat something that has bite marks in it?
That's inside people stuff.
Yeah, I'm hungry, and so then I'd kind of peel off whatever, or eat from the other end and just get there and stop, just because I was just like, that's kind of gross to me. At some point, I didn't care. Like, I just stopped caring, right? When you're inside, like, hey, I don't like onions, I don't like bell peppers, I don't like this, that, and the other.
Was there any like negative repercussions that happened? Anything that, did you ever get sick or anything happen to you from eating people's leftovers?
No. I mean, there's a couple times I got the runs.
But that probably happened just because.
Just eating unclean, having dirty hands or whatever. But that was probably the worst. My immune system is, phenomenal. Like, I should be studied, because I only had pneumonia and basic and COVID. And even when I had COVID, I only suspect it was because someone was in my household. They called me a couple of days later, said, hey, I got COVID. You might want to get tested. But at the time it was early on. So to get tested, it would take forever to schedule it. And then you wouldn't get a result for like almost a week. But I just know that I had kind of flu-like symptoms for about an hour. Like, I'm going to just take a nap. I was tired. Woke up, and then my ribs hurt for maybe a day. But other than that, I was fine.
Well, and I think there's something too, being outside a lot that really helps your immune system just be stronger. I mean, the more it's involved with, like out in the elements, and the more it's exposed to, the stronger it is.
Oh, I believe that. But my immune system was like that even before. Like,
so it was just Superman.
Chickenpox, pneumonia, COVID in my entire life. That's it. Other than like breaking a collarbone, other than a motorcycle accidents.
Now, I know. So basically, it's been less than a handful of times. Would your employers agree with that?
I don't call out. No, I'm not. I don't call out for anything, unless it's a death in the family. I'm always there at work or my vacation. Like I'm not the person to call out. I've always been. Whenever I hire on, like, hey, look, I'm here year round. I only take vacation this week. I'm telling you right now.
We work together, so
Oh yeah. See, that was a different story. That was me going to be me being an asshole and going fucking other women and like going visiting other girls back in the day. But I would tell him, hey, I need this time off. Like, no, you don't get it anymore. Like, I got the PTO. Why can't I get the time off? Oh, you can't get it. Like, okay, fine, whatever. I don't need the time off. And then I just say someone died, and they have to give it to me, and they don't charge me it. So that's
don't lie about people dying.
dude. My mom has died so many times. My mom, my dad, brothers I don't have, sisters I don't have, all kinds of people have died.
So
In my
you don't have that like worry of karma where you lied about your mom dying and then she actually.
No, I mean, I have dead wife, dead mom, dead dad, dead brother, and that's it.
So back to when now you're finally eating stuff, anything that anybody will give you.
Yeah.
But still, what was the worst thing that somebody did, said, gave you, threw at you? I don't know, whatever.
Someone threw a bag of dog. I'm hoping it was dog shit. I don't see an inside person shitting in a bag.
I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid, dude, there was that prank. You light a bag on somebody's porch, ring their doorbell, and we did that to some friends. I was a little shit.
But I mean, it's one thing pranking friends or doing it to that one jerk that lives on your street.
I couldn't even do it to that bad guy in the neighborhood or whatever. So I can't imagine where somebody would be at in their head to be able to throw a bag full of crap at someone standing on the side of the road.
Some little things started happening, so I had to be more vigilant because I was used to, okay, now I need to find a place where nobody's going to find me or be able to steal off of me, right? So then there's a bunch of things that shifted on how I move and do things around in general. Because for the most part, I was still um, kind of inside mentality. Oh yeah, I'm safe out here. I'm a guy. No one's gonna hurt me. But there are people out there that either have it against homeless, or there's people out there that they're in that predator survivor mode. Because when you're out there, you have to be a predator. Like there's not this. You can trust people to be civil. I mean, for the most part, we're civil to each other, but you never know when someone could snap. You never know when something's going to happen. You never know when someone's going to just come by and want to start or do something.
No, I've heard of people being in their tents and having people come up on them, baseball bats, everything, while they're sleeping in their tent. And there are other homeless people. There's crews that go out there and just steal whatever they can. So yeah, I mean, then that definitely changes your attitude toward people, right? I mean, at some point, do you get a little bit more standoffish and just less friendly? I mean, you have to.
Being there, because I saw mostly good, and this is what really changed my view on homeless. Um, what was it? It was before I was starting to get decent amount of money because, like I said, I'd fly a sign for a little bit, get a couple of bucks, and then someone would run me off because that's their spot, right? So I finally able to find a spot. But before I found that spot, I was like, look, man, if this is your spot, fine. I don't even care about money. Do you know where I can get some food? Do you know a food bank or whatever? And he's like, oh, you're hungry. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get home to use. I kind of gave him a rundown of what was going on. Like, oh man, okay. And I'm like, all right, okay, what? And he goes, I'll be right back. And he fucking scurries off. And I'm like, so I follow him. So I start following him. And he goes, oh, yeah, yeah, no, come on, come on, come on. So he follows me because he was just kind of like scatterbrained, kind of whatever. So I follow him and we go back to his little camp. And we wouldn't know, we right here because it was kind of like in little, not even forested area. It was just kind of a lot of bushes and random trees. He goes, okay, you're right here. All right. He don't want me to see a spot. He don't want me to see whatever. So I just kind of stay at his entrance. He goes in. He comes back 4 or 5 minutes later, and oh, hang on, I'll be right back. So he came back. He gave me a can of food. And he goes back, gets his can opener, and opens it up for me, and start digging in, eating some cold. I don't even know what it was. It was. It wasn't SpaghettiOs. It wasn't something like that. It was kind of like I think it was a Dinty Moore beef stew or some type of beef soup thing, right? Because there was chunks of beef in there.
Something that was fully cooked.
Yeah, and just started eating it, and man, I fucking inhaled it. I feel like one, two, three, and I was done. But I just was starving. My fingers, yeah, dirty ass fingers. I know I had dirt under my nails, and oh man, like I've always had a thing where I hate where I can see the white of my nails. I just for me it feels dirty. Even before I was outside, for me having long nails is dirty. Um, and so at that point I didn't care, just ate, right? Uh, and so with talking with him, he introduced me to some other guys. They were like, okay, you're not out here to hurt because I'm a big guy. So I'm 6'1", and so the area is full of Mexican people or Mexicans or Mexican Americans. I'm the same. I just different genetics, whatever. I'm taller than average, and most of them they're 5'6". So automatically I'm seen as a threat that I'm there to either roll someone or hurt someone, or I'm probably an enforcer for somebody because some of these gang crews, um, they're in that predator mode, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of like The Walking Dead, how different clans or whatever it is, they were, some work with each other and have a community, others are just rape and pillage and get whatever we can, and just all kinds of mixes. So fortunately I didn't see too much of the bad. Yeah, almost got my boots stolen, I got my clothes stolen, I got hit with baseball bat or baseballs or softballs, whatever, random things.
And at some point, did you kind of like join up with the crew or like make some friends?
Yeah, I did. There was this guy. His parents passed away, and his parents never taught him much about anything. They just let him stay at home with them. His parents had left him the house, but they didn't. I think they didn't pay the taxes or whatever. But essentially, the house was going to get repossessed by the county because taxes weren't paid, um, and he didn't pay utilities, he didn't pay anything. So it was just a shell of a house because people would come in there and make a mess. And what he did, it was kind of hostile-ish, where you either bring 2 cans of food or $5 a day, and you can stay there. But if you didn't have either, and you were, kind of like allowed in the group to come by, then your job will be helping clean up, like clean up the camp. You either cook or
But everybody pitches in.
when people have their camps, their tent or their bedroll or whatever, it might be a mess, like just random shit all over the place. Like it looks like someone just got a trash bag and just dumped it on the ground. But in everything else they do, everyone's real kind of tidy, like real, real, not super organized, not OCD, but they don't want to make a mess of things. And I think it's more of to just stay invisible, to not be seen. Like they'll have their mess, but it's behind a tree, behind a bunch of bushes, so you can't see it from the street. But from the street to where they're at, they don't toss trash, they don't leave a mess. Like they keep it tidy and clean, I guess, to be a little more invisible, to not be seen, so that nobody finds them. Because I think it's more of keeping other homeless, finding them to steal their shit. Because you got to go fly a sign, but you also want your shit stolen. So it's kind of like A or B. Stay in here, protect my stuff, or go out. So that's where the campmates kind of work out together, where someone stays and watches, and
I see that a lot. Like I ask people, "Where's all your stuff?" And they're like, "Oh, it's at my camp. It's safe. Don't worry about it." I can go with you, or maybe I get them a room or whatever. But that's always something I ask too. Is like, "All your stuff gonna be okay? Do you have everything you need?" So I see that. And then there's those people here or there that have like this awesome camp that no one knows about, that's super secluded, and they've been rocking it for a long time, and they're just like they're on their own, doing their own thing. But it's always one or the
and yeah, and
other.
the ones that are on their own, they're kind of like, they're real, not standoffish. They're real. They don't let a lot of people in.
No.
They won't even let you know where their entrance is. They'll like, oh, I'm gonna go back to my place, and they'll do a, I'll call it SDR. It's a surveillance detection route. It's a military espionage thing where you do 3 rights to make sure no one's following you. But it's harder to do that because when you're walking around, people can watch you from a distance and
Yeah.
see where you're at. So then it's tougher in that sense. And I don't know how they know how to do it, or watch out for that. But those guys are really good about keeping their stuff hidden. Um, and it kind of goes back to this, because talking in and out, it's, I guess, hard for someone that's never been outside to understand.
Yeah.
And especially like people say, oh well, if they're making money, they're doing this, they're doing that, if they can afford beer or alcohol or drugs or cigarettes, then why don't they come back inside? But it's hard, um, because you get so used to being outside, you get so jaded, you have a resentment towards people. Because I had a when I was outside flying a sign, I would, at first it was this pain, sadness, anger at myself for looking down at homeless people. And then I was like, how dare they look down on me? You know, like if I had a job, I'm pretty sure I made more money than most of the people there. You know, a decent electrician makes more than a manager at a Walmart or a fast food place. But and that's kind of like the blue collar economy or minimum skill set wages jobs that are down there. And so I had this attitude: how dare you look down on me? I make more money than you. If I had a job, I'd look down on you. So why are you looking at? And it was just this indignation towards everyone, just being angry that they're seeing me as less than. And so that could turn into something darker or worse, I think, if I was out in the streets for you know more than just those 4 months. Um, and it reminds me of a story. So the first time I really dealt with a homeless person, because you'd see someone, I either give them some cash and just to get them out of my way, or just ignore them.
Yeah.
Pre 2010. There was this one guy when I first started off as an electrician. Uh, so Houston has a lot of mega churches, and I was with my journeyman. And we're off of I-10 near the Second Baptist Church, and this is kind of where I found out that guys have their territory. At least in Houston, if they have a spot, their spot is theirs 24/7. You can't go in there um, unless you leave it vacant. Then someone will come in and take it. This guy comes up to us, and I see him like, God damn, he's fucking homeless guy, and he's gonna ask us for money. So trying to look away and not pay attention and not look in his direction because he's gonna fucking ask, and you know until you run into him, and he goes, hey, I'm not gonna ask you for money. I got money. Just you know, that motherfucker in there, and he called him other words, but that motherfucker in there won't let me in. So just all I need is a Diet Coke, 20 ounce, and a Snickers. He pulls out a 20 and hands it to us, and we're like, the fuck, this guy got a $20 bill. Hands us a 20, like, get yourself whatever you want. Here you go.
So take care of yourself too.
What the fuck is going on? And my journeyman's with me, and he's like, just come in and fuck it, whatever. And I'm thinking, man, are we on Punked or I think Punked was out by then, but whatever TV shows, like you're getting gagged or whatever, tricked. And so we go in there, we get him his drink and his Snickers. Um, my journeyman paid for it. He didn't use the guy's 20. He paid for it out of his own pocket. He got his stuff. I got my stuff. We paid for our own. Yeah. And went out, gave the guy his soda and his Snickers, and gave him his $20 back. And he's like, I told you could get whatever you wanted. I got money. He digs in his pocket and he fucking has time pulling it out, pulls out just a knot of bills. Um, and I got money. Told you. And fucking gives me a 20, gives my boss a 20, puts his money back in. Like, just that motherfucker in there won't let me.
Did he smell?
He wasn't terrible, but he smelled. Like it was noticeable. And this was also about the time when I started losing my sense of smell. So I caught a whiff of it, and I was like, well, he's a little ripe, but not terrible.
And were his clothes real tattered? Did he look really? I mean, was it 100% obvious?
He was obviously homeless, just kind of dingy, dirty. He wasn't. It wasn't like he rolled around in mud. It just looked like he got under a car, changed oil, and got back out. Like it wasn't terrible, just kind of a little bit of grease here and there, a little bit of dirt. But you would only tell if you got up close to him how dirty his clothes was. But you could also tell from a distance that he was homeless. He just messed up hair, dirt, stuff all over his face.
Yeah.
And so we're like, the fuck? How do you have this knot of clothes, not of money, not of cash, and what the fuck is going on? And I can't do it. What the fuck you mean? Yeah, I can't be indoors anymore. I can't be inside anymore. I can't do it. It's like, how'd you make all that money? And he explains that he's there at that Second Baptist Church exit.
So he had a whole bunch of money.
Couple hundred, easy. Even if it was just ones, it was a couple $100 in his or maybe at least 100.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, no. I sit up here by the freeway, and Sunday morning, so that mega church had multiple services. So at least 5 services on Sundays, right? He said he would stand out there, and he said, the hard one is the first one. But once I get one person to give me money, just about every car that comes by just gives him money, right? A couple bucks or whatever. And so he's got 5 services to get from, coming and going. Because usually when one's coming in, the other's leaving, other than the first and last one. So he's getting money left and right, hand over fist. He goes, yeah, I make $2,000 to $3,000 a week. just working one day, just working Sunday.
Now that's not typical though.
It is not.
I mean, I know a lot of people that are out there, and there's a lot that don't. They're not upfront with what they make, but then there's others. After I get to know them and build some trust, they're totally honest, and they tell me, yeah, I made $100, or oh, I today sucked. I made 5. I got nothing today. Whatever it is, but thousands, that's
Yeah.
that's rare.
Again, it's a mega church in Houston, 5 services a day. You got people that are, I guess, feeling guilty about being rich because I mean it's in a well-to-do area of Houston, and this is also back in 2005, 2006 ish because I started out as an electrician in 2005, and I was still an apprentice. It was before I turned out, so between '05 and '07 is when this happened. But I want to say it was '05.
And then did you ask them like, why don't you just go get a place?
Yeah, I was like, why don't you go back and why can't you get an apartment? If you're making this much, like shit, I would do like I thought at the time, fuck, I'll stand out here for
Yeah.
even for 1,000 a week, tax free, holding a sign. I can do that. Like in my mind, I think, yeah, I can do that. No big deal. Um, he goes, I can't. I try to get a place. Somebody help me out, and I just can't be inside anymore. I can't do it. Like the fuck you mean can't be inside anymore? It's like it's wrong. It's wrong being inside. And I didn't get it then. In 2005, made no sense to me, not at all. Um, when I was in that camp with the guy, or not the camp, but the house that the guy, his parents left him, sitting there shooting the shit. I mean, it was not the happiest, but it was very happy for me to be there with a couple of guys shooting the shit, eating food straight out of the can, heated on a campfire, straight out of there, having a conversation, being under the stars, not worried about electronics, not worried about TV, not worried about who's on TV, not worried about celebrities, just being able to hang out there and exist and just be happy. It was, yeah, there's other things to be angry and sad and worried and frustrated about. But hanging out with those guys, having those meals, you know, that's when I understood I can't be back inside. Like I wanted to be back inside, but I get his point of like just being here, being in this moment where his only concern is what he's going to eat the next meal. That's as far as you have to worry when you're outside. That's your only concern.
You mentioned that you were in a house with these guys. Was it an abandoned house or something you were staying
So
in?
it was technically abandoned. It was one of the guy's parents' house that he inherited, but because he didn't pay taxes, it was or take care of the taxes or whatever, it was going to get repossessed or whatever the county does whenever they evict people or take it because of back taxes. So he was just wait. He knew it was going to happen at some point. He was just waiting for it to happen.
Was it trashed?
Not really. It was just imagine a house, an abandoned house, no electricity, no water.
Furniture?
There was, but it was like an old dresser, 2 tables, and then there was a bed frame, but no bed. Say again?
Were there neighbors?
No, because this was kind of not secluded. It was just kind of like an older neighborhood where the nearest neighbor was 200 feet away. There was a house on the corner that was a average house, but I think the guy was a truck driver because you'd see a tractor trailer there every maybe once a month. And then it was this guy's house and then another house that was there. But then from then on, like all the kids played on that side of the street because this was it wasn't a dead end street, but it was kind of like a subdivision that didn't get finished. Like we were in that back corner that was just kind of like you see where the road is cleared and where the cement ends or the concrete or the road ends, asphalt ends, but then it's just dirt. And so it was just kind of weird, but it was kind of cool because if you just cut across his backyard, there's no fence, then you can get to in overpass, and then on the other side, it's a bunch of businesses. So you just kind of weave your way through, and you can get back to start flying a sign real easily. Um, but yeah, the thing that stuck with me is like I don't mind this. I don't mind being outside now because I have friends. I have at least one meal a day, coming to camp. And worst case, if I don't make any money, I don't have to worry about it. someone's going to bring in money, bring in food to be able to share with everybody else. Some days we were only sharing 3 cans. Other days everybody had, 2 cans each, whatever we ended up getting. So I know I'm going to eat once a day. So that was covered. And that was like the biggest worry being out there, something to eat. Um, and so that moment or that evening is when it dawned on me, okay, I get what that guy means about not being able to go back in. Um, because if you get an apartment, now you got to worry about utilities. Now you got to worry about neighbors. Now you got to worry about dogs either above or, your neighbors above or below you making noise, having to deal with people and having to have a job or having to prove that you have a job or you prove that you have income, having to deal with the bank, having to deal with cell phones. I mean, all these things that we have to deal with that we think is normal, that we think is necessary to live. It's not, you know. Food and companionship, food and friendship are the most important things, I think.
Crazy that, like, a lot of people don't understand. But there's a lot of people out there that just don't want to come back inside. I asked a guy that I was working with the other day. I said, guy that I was helping, I said, do you think after the first time that you had to go live outside that you became homeless? After that, because he's been in and out of it. I'm like, after that first time, was it easier? Was that like a backup plan in the back of your head? Like, if I have to, I can do it. I've already done it, and then it just becomes easier and easier to a point eventually where it's like, I just don't even want to go inside anymore. This is fine. This is life. I think that happens for a lot of people that have experienced this. But for anyone who hasn't been outside, it's just like you can't. There's no way. It's as for somebody who's never had a car. They don't understand. Like, well, why would I ever need one? Or then somebody who's always had it can't not have one. Same kind of concept, I guess.
Fight Club, you have all this shit to impress people I don't like for shit I don't need, all this stuff. You don't need a bunch of stuff to it's nice to have a bunch of stuff, but you don't need stuff to be happy.
No. Well, at some point, it like creates more problems having all these things to maintain or deal with and pay bills on. I think nowadays the biggest thing for everybody is the phone, right? I mean, and even homeless people now, you can't do anything on the phone. You can't apply for a job. I mean, nobody anymore just has an application that you can fill out when you walk in.
Yeah, it's few and far between. Like, and they're still moving to online.
Yeah. And then it's an application online that has all these different sections. Where do you live now? Where was your last house? What was your last job? All this stuff. And if you've been living outside for a while, you don't even have anything to put on there. So why would they look at your application over somebody who fills all those boxes, even if they're not going to show up for work or be a hard worker?
That's a frustrating thing that doesn't make sense. Like, I get the I-9 and having to prove your identity and having to prove that you're uh, a legal U.S. resident or citizen. What I don't get is your ID. It expires, right? It could be expired by one day. It's still you, still the same person. It just you didn't go to the DMV to get it renewed in time. Whatever. You can't use it. You can't buy liquor. You can't buy cigarettes. You can't get a room. You can't get a job. Like it's crazy that there's not even a grace period to do that. And actually, that kind of happened to me recently. At my new job, my ID or my driver's license expired, but I always use my passport, just because whenever you get a job, a passport or driver's license and social, and I don't like having to carry that around or bring it with me because it can get lost. Again, you can't laminate it, so it can get torn really easy as a piece of paper.
Oh yeah, yeah. And people that live outside have to carry all of that stuff all the time. Um, but I don't carry that stuff around. So anyway, yeah, you just
Mhm.
use your passport.
Oh, so yeah, so I use my passport, and my passport expires. Your passport lasts for 10 years, and for whatever reason, I thought my driver's like, oh yeah, I'm good till 2020 or whenever my last passport expired. Then you get the job and like, hey, you don't have a valid driver's license. Like, yeah, I do. Like, yeah, and I go check it. Like, oh, it expired in 2018. I was like, ooh, I probably should have taken care of this a little sooner. But I use my passport for everything. I use it for flying and whatever, um, because from being outside, I don't like people knowing where I live. Like, I still have that. Not I call it healthy paranoia. It's not like, oh, the government's out to get me or I have some kind of conspiracy theory. I just prefer privacy in a sense. Like I know I post stuff on Instagram and whatever, but I don't um, advertise that I always go to this place all the time so you can find me and rob me or whatever. It's just a little cautious online. Um, and so my ID, I always get my ID renewed when I know I'm leaving. So yeah, sure, my ID has this address, but it's an address where I used to live at least one or two addresses before. And then I figured out a hack where I can doctor a PDF. So then, oh, fuck it, I can make my bank account look like I live where I work. And so now my most recent ID is like 2 jobs ago's address. So, anyways, because you can tell them, hey, this is my address, but mail it to here. So my mailing address is different.
Yeah.
So I could have my address at maybe I live at Tesla. Who knows? As far as Nevada knows, my job is 1 Electric Avenue, but it gets mailed to a PO box. So, um, anyways, so yeah, my ID was expired. I was like, oh shit, I need to take care of this. But it sucks because, you know, me as someone inside, I know I have to have a valid ID, and I forgot to take care of it. Fortunately, I had a passport, but if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to have a job. I think by the time I made it to that house, because we didn't stay there, like it was just to sleep, really, to eat dinner and sleep. Uh, but usually by like 6 or 7, we'd be gone and out of the area, cleaned up and everything. So we'd be gone for the day. But at least it was kind of like a home base, which was good for me. It helped me kind of like I guess recalibrate to want to come back in. Um, and again, like I was always depositing my cash, and uh, right before I came back inside, one of the last times I made a deposit, because of course this adds more to my paranoia, like always being vigilant, is I saw some guys coming up behind me, and so instead of making the deposit, because usually when you do the deposit, it'll tell you how much you have available, and then have um, what do you call it? Your balance, and then that screen stays on for a while. And do you want to print a receipt, or it wasn't email, it was something else, but whatever. And so I, what did I do? I didn't put in the wrong pin. Um, I just turned around and left because most ATMs have like a little mirror, like a convex mirror by there, so you can see behind you. And I just had a weird vibe that just kind of like told me get out of here, and I ignored it for a second. But then when I saw in the mirror that there were some guys behind me, I just canceled transaction, put my uh, card in my front pocket, and when I put my card in my pocket, I fished out of my wallet because I always carry like I don't have it on me; it's on the table. But I always carry like a little. It's not a billfold wallet. It's one of the where everything kind of slides in, yeah, with an opening. Um, and so what I did was I pulled out my debit card, pulled out the cash, pulled out my ID because I'm very particular about how I put things in my pocket. So all I had in there was like a GameStop card, an old debit card, or a debit card that what was wrong with it? Oh, there wasn't a bank there, so there wasn't. I think it was a Wells Fargo or Bank of America, whatever bank I had. One of them wasn't down in the valley, so or U.S. Bank. It's just some random thing. So, anyways, pulled those cards out and moved them so that they were back, so it looked like I had them there because the ones I used the most were the front-facing ones. What was it? Whatever. I just rearranged. I rearranged my wallet in my pocket so that way I had just had a feeling I was gonna get mugged.
Did you ever lose your wallet while you were outside?
I made sure, like I said, it was always in my front pocket. And I was always paranoid on it because I always would sit there and just have my hand on it, make sure, like, okay, it's not coming out of my pocket. It's not, yeah, because that's where I was depositing money. If I lost that, someone could go on a spending spree, and I'd have a phone to be able, or I had a phone, but by then the service was deactivated.
How much had you saved up?
I think I was up to like 1,800.
That's substantial.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're making average 50 a day and you're hustling every day and your only expense is the change that I use, which was roughly 5 to 10-ish bucks, in nickels, quarters, dimes, um, you can save money because I didn't have any. My addiction was sex, so it wasn't drinking, it wasn't alcohol, it wasn't cigarettes, it wasn't drugs, it was just sex, and so um, me not being able to get laid was kind of pushed me to get out of being homeless because I'm like, the women that are out here are not not attractive. Not that it stopped me before, but by then I was like, I need to get laid. I need to do something about this. And most of the people that are homeless are males, 20s to 60s. Females, if they're under 20, they're out of the street quick. Either somebody, hopefully, someone helps them get off, but more than likely they either get trafficked or they get pimped out or they hook up with an older guy. If they're 20, it might be a 30-year-old guy that's kind of either using them or just protecting them. So they're either taking care of the girl or just using them one way or another.
So the living standard that you really missed that you needed to get back in your life was the women that you wanted to get, not so much of being inside and having all the other nice things. Like that was probably comforting and nice, but the biggest motivator for you was being able to feed your addiction.
Yeah, that was the biggest motivator because coming back inside, I could have taken it or left it. It wasn't a big deal for me because as a kid, I'd spent my summers in Mexico, and one particular summer, I stayed at my grandfather's ranch, and those first few days was kind of similar to being homeless. Is that there was no TV, no videos, no nothing. All there was a radio, and the stove was it wasn't even a stove. It was just a tabletop that was basically a raised campfire. It was a table that had some bricks that you can build a fire in, and then a grate that you put on top of that. That's how we cooked our food at my grandfather's ranch. The restroom was outdoors. It was just a couple of trees. It had like it wasn't even an outhouse. It was just an out set of trees that you had not even a bench, a plank of wood that you would sit on and just kind of like scoot back so you can drop your stuff. And but that was okay for me because I had some privacy. The trees kind of blocked stuff out. It was a certain distance from the house and nobody could see. So that or being homeless reminded me of that time being as a kid, and it wasn't terrible.
No, and for a lot of us, I think that like really enjoy camping and like that's fun. We enjoy it. I feel like you could integrate easily somewhat. Like you have skills that you learned from camping that are going to play into
Yeah.
living.
And also I was in the army, so spending time outdoors wasn't a big deal either. It was part of my job.
Yeah.
At least once a month, I was either out for a 3-day weekend or out for a week outdoors, just roughing it, which really wasn't roughing it because we had the cooks that would come and just kind of steam some stuff together and it'd rehydrate some food, and then we had food that way. So we had warm meals, we had a cot, we had stuff, but it was still kind of I was kind of prepared throughout my life to be okay with being homeless, but not okay with always being homeless or staying out there, staying outside.
So your goal was always to get back inside. Like
Yeah.
even though you're kind of comfy, you wanted to get back inside for a couple reasons. One of them,
To get laid.
I'm sure there's a lot of other dudes out there that could relate to that. That's not most dudes want to get laid.
But my addiction was bad.
Some people end up getting in relationships out there too, and that can be real toxic depending on what the other person's dealing with and what's going on too. It can also be really good. It could also make the difference, and then some people get pregnant out there too, and then you can't have a kid out in a tent.
It's terrible out there. I didn't see anybody get pregnant out there again because we women are so few and far between that are homeless. If they are out there, they get off pretty quick. If they're let me rephrase that. If they're attractive women, they get off the streets fairly quickly. Someone helps them out. Someone either uses them or whatever. If they're not attractive, then they still can survive, but usually they get paired up pretty quick with someone, just another male, mostly just to protect them. I imagine. I don't know the whole situation, but more often than not, what I saw was a woman wanting a guy to protect them, or being codependent, and it was sometimes that codependency can be toxic, and that's kind of like what we see sometimes. Where they don't want them to be happy, but they don't want them to be apart. They want to be together and make each other's lives miserable because that's a drive for them. It's not healthy, it's not good for them, but it's just what they know, what they're used to. um Fortunately for me, I didn't get tied down to anybody. It was just I wanted to get laid.
So you'd saved up 1,800, you said, right?
Right about 1800, that night that I almost got, or the night that I technically got mugged. Like I knew it was coming, so I just, like I said, I rearranged my wallet. And so then when they told me give me your shit, like, hey, I'm reaching in my pocket, don't do anything, and I just tossed it to him and ran. Like and I didn't toss it to them. So like the distance we are each other, I tossed it like at an angle because I knew it was going to run that way. So I wanted him to go towards the wallet.
Did they have any weapons? Did I miss that part?
I don't know. I didn't see because it was kind of dark at night. I just knew it was four guys. And by that time, I was already down to, I don't know. I lost a lot of weight. I want to say I was 180 ish. Normally, at that time, I was in the 220 to 230 range. And I just didn't really have a lot of energy. Like then it was just kind of like I kind of went through my day. It wasn't a mental fog. It was just tired, like a lack of food, lack of energy. It was always just lack of energy because it was so fucking hot.
So were you able to run away fast? Or were you like, you got to safety
I sprinted away and then just kind of jogged and then looked behind me and saw they weren't chasing me. So then I just kind of stopped running.
and you had all your essentials already? I mean, that's pretty awesome that you were able to be, intuitive enough to do what you needed to do there. Because that would be the difference for a lot
Yeah,
of
if I
people.
lost that ID, if I lost that chase card would have been the end of me. That just
Would they still would have needed to know your pin though?
you probably could have used it as credit, and but the thing was is let's just say let's devil's advocate. Let's say I did lose that chase card. I didn't have cell service, so I couldn't call the bank. They wouldn't have let me inside the bank because I smelled so bad to tell them, hey, I need you to stop this credit card.
And you would have lost your ID, so nobody would have.
And I couldn't have proved who I was. I could tell them, hey, this is my social 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. This is my date of birth. Blah blah blah. This is my ID number. I just need you to stop the card. I would imagine that there would be so many roadblocks.
That's what a lot of people deal with. That's all it takes.
If you can't get a job with an expired ID, how are you going to get anything to benefit you for your bank without being able to prove who you are? And so, fortunately, and it wasn't intuition. It was just kind of, um, yeah, I guess instinct, intuition. I guess it kind of works together. But it was just kind of another aspect about my life that I can get, I guess, premonitions, instincts, whatever, where I kind of envision something bad happening. And so I won't drive in that direction. Like, I'll see an accident, I'll see a pileup, I'll see traffic, whatever, and I'll just uh, take a different route to avoid what I would have seen. And, there's been a few times where it's played out to where I see the accident I envisioned coming back the other way. So I'll see stuff like that every now and again. So that premonition, that raised hackles, whatever it was, that told me, hey, pay attention around you. That's when I saw those guys behind me in the little mirror. So stuff like that's kind of happened throughout my life that something's warning me, protecting me, whatever.
Yeah, and that day it was the difference. I mean, it saved you pretty much. So from that point, how much longer did it take for you to work to getting back inside?
I think it was about a week. It was 2 more days. I had in my mind to hit 2,000, and I figured, okay, I'm making roughly 50 a day. Um, I'll have that 200 by next week, and then I'll get a bus ticket, and then I'll make enough to get a bus ticket and go back home to Houston, and I'll make it there. Um, but I think 2 days later, I made the $200 within 2 days. It was like 50 one day, 150 the next. It was what I needed. And then I stayed one more night, talked to all the guys, and said, "Hey, I got enough money. I just need to get a bus ticket." And the way I phrased it, my dumb ass, um, I meant to say, "Hey, I have enough money. I'm gonna work one more day to make a bus ticket," is what I meant to say. But whatever I said is this: I have enough money saved up. I just need a bus ticket. And the way I said it, everybody just started pitching in. Like the guys in the camp, they pitched in roughly $10 each, and I try to give it back to them, like, no, 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 no. I'm gonna go fly a sign one more day, and I'm out of here. I just want to let you know this might be the last day I see you guys because I'm good, right? And they wouldn't let me take the money or give them the money back, and so uh, a little emotional. uh, got the money, took the money from them, and so the next day I got a bus ticket, got back home, reached out to a cousin of mine because that's the only one, or actually reached out to an aunt of mine because she's the only phone number that I'd memorized or still remembered. So called her, told her I was back in town, gave her a brief, really brief synopsis because otherwise I'd have been on the phone for hours trying to explain and where were you? So went over, ate like a fucking king because so she's a Latina mom, Mexican mom, and so Every time I go over, hey, mijo, you hungry? You hungry? Like, no, 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 I'm good. I just ate. I just ate. And she's still feeding me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went over there. Oh my God. I fucking
This
ate.
one time
It
you just
was,
kept it
I
coming.
just kept eating. It was the best food. The best food because it was fresh made tortillas and everything. And then passed out because I was just so full. And uh, so the next day when I woke up, because it was late in the afternoon, so I woke up the next day, talked to one of my cousins, talked about couch surfing, and eventually she just had me house sit for her because she was buying a new house, but she was always out of town. So I house sat for her, took care of some of the bills, was able to get a car, was able to get some basic tools, got back to work.
And this is all with the money that you'd saved.
Because it was only $50, 50-ish bucks to get a bus ticket from the Valley up to Houston. Got a shitty little $600 car, uh, paid my cousin, I think it was $100 to stay there, and then she just like let me stay there for free, as long as I took care of the house. Um, so with that thousand, I was able to get some tools, get some work clothes, get some new work boots. Still had a couple $100 left over. I think I had like 280-ish, 290 left over. So with that, um, I went to a used tire shop, made sure the new tire, all the tires I had were decent. I had to replace two of them and got a job, went back to work. Once I got my first paycheck, I drove back down to that house and gave each of them $100 because it was just like this. You changed my life. It saved me.
That's awesome.
It pissed me off that two of them would not take the money. I'm like, look, I'm back on my feet, man. I want to help you. Like, no, 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 no. You're not supposed to be out here anyways. We don't ever want to see you again. Like I was like, fuck. And in that moment it hurt because like, hey, these are my friends, but they meant it as you need to stay inside. Like you're I'm an inside person. I can survive. I know I can be out there again. I don't want to be.
But that's because you're an inside person.
I know I am. Even now, like, girlfriend will tell me, hey, you want to go camping? Nope. Nope. If I go camping, I'm glamping. I want a RV. I want a cushy bed. Nope. Or a hammock. I'm fine with hammocks. I actually like hammocks better, but
So living outside, was that part of what makes you now not want to go camping?
so
Do you think it would remind you, or have you done it ever since?
I've never gone camping other than basic training and then the military, and then when I was outside. I never had a fascination for outdoors. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be outdoors and do this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. On the flip side, I do want to do homesteading, so that's a little different. But I'd be making my own food and taking care of my own place, but still have a house. But sleeping outside, sleeping on the floor is like the last thing I ever want to do again. I'll sleep in a hammock. Fine with hammocks outdoors, but sleeping on the floor, outside, ground, dirt, concrete, whatever, I never want to do it again, ever. So
Well, you sounds like you're not going to have to.
no, now I live, a lot more. I live differently, and I don't put faith or trust in others as far as when money comes in because, like, I trusted that my ex-wife would take care of things like she was going to, and I'd be fine. But I'm glad it happened in a sense because it forced me to be different with my money. So before, I'd made money, and people in the trades, you potentially can make money hand over fist. I know guys that are different types of trades. They only work essentially from like from Halloween till about Valentine's. That's the most they work all year because we get per diem, we get overtime, working 7/12s, and that's when a lot of people pay even more because people are trying to disappear. Once Thanksgiving comes, people just want to leave and go for the holidays. So these guys only work a few months out of the year, take their RV wherever they're going, and then live off the money they made, and then live off of unemployment for the rest of the year. And they've got a whole bunch of toys. They got an RV, they've got side by sides, motorcycles, plural, trucks. They got an old truck, a project truck. They got a brand new truck that's lifted. Like most of these guys, the oldest car you'll see in one of these job sites, 3 years old, oldest. And like if you got a 3 year old car, you're clearly an apprentice or you're starting out because otherwise you'd have a brand new car. Or the other side, you'd have guys that have like 70s or 80s hot rods that are whatever.
Nice stuff.
Because they're used to just living that type of life. And um, being that way, I'm like, that for me, it's stupid. Like I see it now as stupid, just throwing money away because you can't take these things with you to the grave. And if you get hurt, now how are you going to make that money? How are you going to live that lifestyle? So for me, I live like I I live as though I only make minimum wage. So anything I make above that goes to retirement, goes to savings, goes to investments, goes to different other things. So while I could fix up my hot rod that I want to fix up, I could have a newer car than a 2017, so 5 year old car.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, um, I could have newer, nicer things because I make enough to do it. But I want to make sure that I never have to sleep outside again. Never want to do that again.
Yeah.
And so if it comes close to that, well, I got savings. I can rely on that. But I want to make sure that I have enough to take care of me for the next decade or so.
But even with the savings, let's say like, you were in a different area and, you lose your car breaks down, then all of a sudden you get held up at an ATM and they take all your stuff and you have no phone, you have nothing. I mean, it wouldn't take a whole lot for anybody. I mean, in the right circumstance to all of a sudden go, now what? And
Yeah.
a week in, you're like, I can't get a hold of anybody. I can't do anything. I don't remember anybody's phone numbers. I don't have anything. I Even if I mail something to my address, if you're in a different state or something, it could totally happen.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The more I've learned and the more I've seen and how easy it's happened to a lot of people, it's mind blowing what it would take, even if you do have a lot of savings.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a homeless person out there in a random city that
Has tons of money.
could be worth half a million.
Yeah.
Could be sitting in a bank, could be an investment, could be in a 401k, could be in whatever, but he can't touch it because he can't prove who he is because, he can't get his ID. And or on top of that, he might have had a psychotic or schizophrenic break that he's been on the streets and, someone hit him, hurt him in his head, or um, you know, trying to smoke dope to just escape because, just the way people do drugs that are inside to not deal with life,
Yeah.
to have that escape. People still need that when you're outside. Just because you're outside doesn't mean, oh, well, he's outside, he doesn't deserve.
Or as soon as they do, they're an addict, and that's exactly why they're outside. That's it.
It could be.
It could be, but it doesn't always mean that. I mean, I think a lot of that comes after the fact for most people
Yeah,
too.
they need to get away, and or even like video games. How we play video games just to have a sense of escape, just how we watch a movie to escape reality for a little bit.
How we get stuck scrolling.
Scrolling things.
Yeah.
That's in it. That's a form of escape. That's in it. That's a form of escape. And people that are outside homeless don't have many options. It's drugs, alcohol. Um, I mean, now some of them can get a phone, depending on where you are. They can
Or
get
if
a
Nate's
free
ran
phone.
into them.
Right? But for the most part, they don't. There's not that many outlets. I mean, imagine just trying to turn off your phone for a day. Just you, listener, turn off your phone for a day. Go on a Sunday, on a weekend when you're not working, or whatever your weekend is, because some of you might have weekends, right, where you're off during the week. Turn off your phone for a day and see how you can entertain yourself without drugs, without alcohol, without video games, without a phone, without electronics. See when you start getting stir crazy, just sitting at home doing nothing.
I bet if you try that too, a lot of your family members will be too hooked on their own getaways, their own phones, their own video games that they won't help entertain you either.
So entertain yourself. Try entertaining yourself by yourself for 24 hours. Nothing. No drawing, no writing on paper, nothing. Whatever you have in your pockets that isn't electronic, that's all you have. Try that for 24 hours and then see if you can still judge a homeless person for wanting a cigarette, for wanting a 40, for wanting whatever.
I don't think anybody's gonna make it.
It's
No.
hard.
I know now it's like for me because now everything I do is on social media, like all of this, and I have to check my phone. I have to do something. I have to log in. I have to see what's going on. But this is work. This is
Yeah.
what I do, and at the same time, I do it. I treat it as work too. Like I rarely consume and just watch and scroll or do whatever. Most of the time, it's to get on, get my things done, do what I need to do. I try to create more than I consume. Um, but I mean, there's a balance there for everybody. And consuming can be anything. My vice is coffee. I love my coffee. I'll say that any day, and I wouldn't mind having a cup right now.
Yeah.
But that's all good. So you did everything you needed to. You were working again. You had a little car. You had all that stuff, and then you slowly just built everything back up to the point where you are today. For to wrap it all up. Any other close calls in the past 10 years, or any time where you're like, it's gonna happen. Like I need to make a move now, or this could be, I could be outside again.
After my wife died.
Was that depression?
So that was a bunch of things. So I moved out here for Tesla to Reno. My wife was going to follow me out a couple months later. Like she was wrapping up stuff back home, and
And this your second wife?
this is my second wife. Yeah. I met her after I came to the realization that I was an intercourse addict. Worked on myself, fixed myself. So now I don't have that uh, chase or drive to have sex to feel better. Now I know that if I need to feel better, I can talk about it. I can have conversation with friends. I can uh, do any other thing other than try to get laid to feel better. Exactly. Actually, no, I never scrolled. It was me just going out. I'm better at picking up girls in person than apps and stuff. But no, yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that.
Whether it's content or whether
Gotcha.
it's TV or
Yeah.
find something
Yeah, something better to
blow
do
your mind.
besides trying to get laid. Yeah. Yeah. So I realized that my value isn't tied to that, and so with her, when she passed away, like I snapped and I fell back into my bad habits. I hooked up with four women in less than 24 hours just to be that she and I had a semi poly relationship. So we bring other women to the relationship sometimes. And so a couple of them were women I had already been with, but I just picked up two new ones just to feel something because man, that losing my wife was the worst.
Sorry, man.
No,
I know, and I know we've talked about this before, but
it's going on 6 years now. It'll be 6 years this July. But yeah, we had a great relationship. All of our friends saw this as that hashtag relationships goals couple that they wanted to be. They envied us because of the way we were, and the way she made me feel was amazing. Like she made me feel like I could do anything. And so when she passed away, it was depression. It was me trying to avoid being an intercourse addict again to get over my feelings. And so then I started drinking. So you know what? I'm not going to do drugs because my entire life never touched any drug other than alcohol, if you consider that a drug. And even then, it was just whenever I go out drinking, it's a couple here and there, not a big drinker. And so didn't want to touch drugs because that was just kind of a mental thing. I was like, if you do drugs, you're weak and you can't handle life. So whatever.
and then so that's funny you say that because I feel like a lot of alcoholics out there think they're better than drug addicts, and addicts and addict like
Yeah.
it. And if anything, sometimes from what I've seen, people die more from alcoholism than they do from drug addiction. I mean, especially before fentanyl was around. Especially, it's just whatever. It's
Yeah, no,
crazy.
it's funny because I had that same mentality. I was like, oh God, you're what's wrong with you? You're not strong enough to say no to drinking or no to drugs. And here I was, an intercourse addict, sex addict. Um, when I came to that realization, I was a little more open and less judgmental about other addictions.
A lot of addicts do that, and they judge and they think that their addiction's not as bad, or they're in control, or whatever it may be. And you doing this, that you're losing it, and it's interesting.
Well, I didn't even realize I was an addict. I just thought I'm being a man. That's my job. I'm supposed to do this. And so I had that disdain towards other addicts until I realized, oh shit, I am an addict. I need to reassess my life or whatever. But yeah, when my wife passed away, I said, you know what? I don't want to do this again. I don't want to run through women. I don't want to um, use them because at that point I already realized that for me, sex is something more for a relationship. So whether it's friends with benefits that I want to keep for life, because I don't like having random hookups. I rather have, if I'm a hookup with someone, it's because I want to keep hooking up with you in perpetuity. I may not want to have a monogamous relationship with you, with this woman, but I'd rather have her where we can come back to each other down the road.
Yeah.
Just one to not increase my body count, and another is just like, I can appreciate one woman versus whatever.
So you ended up having kind of a close call after losing your second wife,
Yeah. Drinking, because then I said, you know what, I'm going to start drinking.
and that was here in Reno.
I was good thing I don't work at Tesla anymore. I would get drunk. I would drink most of a fifth before I'd get on the shuttle to go to Tesla,
Wow.
and it was a fifth of gin, so that way it doesn't smell on your breath because it gin is bitter as fuck. And vodka, I guess people are used to that smell, what vodka is, but gin is so rare. Like gin is not an alcohol you want to drink straight. Like it is horrendous. Um, but I would drink that straight up just to fucking get drunk quick, and I'd go to work. And as my job was working with machines and making sure they ran, and so the guys I worked with fortunately covered for me because they knew my wife had passed away, and so they would just let me go hide in a corner till I sobered up a couple hours later, and then I'd carry them on my back for the rest of the night. And then when I got on that shuttle, I'd finish off that fifth that I had, and I finished it so that way by the time I got home, I'd be drunk enough just to be able to fall asleep. And repeated that, and eventually I just got tired of it because I'm just putting headaches and hangovers on layaway, and fuck, I was already in my 30s. That fucking sucks. It hurts. Getting drunk, it's not fun anymore. So started dealing with my issues, but it came close because my wife had passed away. I just got back. I had to spend all my money on being back in San Antonio, taking care of stuff, packing the rest of the house, getting everything together, and then bringing it back. But I wasn't working. I was gone for 3.5 weeks. So by the time I came back, I was dead broke. So I was like, hustling and hurrying up to try to make money to be able to not end up on the streets again
Yeah.
because um, yeah, I had savings, but I needed a roommate because my roommate moved out because they found a place, and so I was having to pay for an expensive apartment here in Reno because I got suckered out here. Told, oh yeah, 600 bucks you'll get a nice little penthouse place. It's phenomenal, top of the line. But that was based on like 2014, 2015 prices in Reno. By the time I got here, the cheapest decent uh, apartment was like 1,300 bucks. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Now it's
yeah, it's stupid high.
1,800 or something like that.
But yeah, so then I was just scrambling, and that was a close call. Just because I had it in my mind, I don't care what happens, I'm not going to touch my savings because don't want to slippery slope of, oh, well, I'm using the savings for this. Well, I already broke into it. I might as well pay the penalty and get more out. So that way, it's worth it. It's not, 20% of what I'm taking out. It's only 1% of what I'm taking out. So fortunately, I was able to make it. Got another roommate to just kind of buy me some time, and then got out of there. And so yeah, since then I'm a lot better.
Cool. I mean, that's good. That's good. It's pretty. Hearing your story, it's pretty amazing how you made it through. You made some friends along the way, and you were lucky, fortunate to find that abandoned house and those friends and have that group. Um, and I mean, save up that money. You're smart, and you saved, and that not everybody does that. Not everybody even has a bank account. A lot of the people I run into don't even have bank accounts, and I try to tell them you should get an account. Like, oh, if you get a job, make sure you get a bank account, but they'll keep the money on whatever the card is that the temp agency gives them instead of getting a bank account, and they'll do that for months, and then something comes up, and it's like, well, you know, so you still thought ahead. You still thought like an inside person the whole time you were outside. Like your friends told you that you're not meant for this. Um, what would you think if somebody like me approached you with a camera on and offered to get you
Man,
anything that you wanted that day?
it's hard to say because we're talking 10 years apart from social media and cameras and all the stuff that's there. But let's just say that night had gone bad for me, like that night that I didn't think to put my card back in my wallet or whatever. So let's say I'd lost everything and I was still out on the street. I was starting to get jaded too because of stuff that was going on. So at first, if I had been approached that way, depending on my day, depending on my mood, it would either be someone's pranking me, so I wouldn't believe you, whatever you want, whatever, or I'd probably go to the extreme, like, okay, I want a car, I want a big booty Latina, I want a big booty black chick, and I want a white girl, ginger. That's what I want. I want sex, I want food, I want Mr. Pibb. And I'd either gone to one extreme or the other. Like I'd have been, fuck you, you're fucking with me.
But at some point, like you say, if you lost your stuff, you think you would have been like, okay, no, seriously though, I need this, that, and just seen what happened.
Maybe like I would have probably rattled off a bunch of crazy things you can't get me, or I might have been just, okay, yeah, fine. I need X, Y, and Z. I need, a whole bunch of gear, a whole bunch of this, a whole bunch of that. Because at the same time, like I said, I had a little bit of indignation of like, how dare you look down on me, right? And so then maybe seeing you might have inspired me. You know what? Fuck it. Someone out here is still nice. Let's see what he can get me. Let's see if he's being honest. Let's see if he's being real. Um, so I get like in some of your videos, some people just leave, right? That they just like, he's not going to come back. So instead of seeing the disappointment that you don't come back, I'm just going to leave. So I don't have to see that. I don't have to be disappointed or let down again, because there's a lot of that. If they've been out there for a while, they're going to see a lot of frauds, phonies, false promises, whatever.
Do you think if like I did something like that with you, say I got you a bunch of stuff, and then like social media was a thing, and you were able to actually look at the video, and it was you thought it was something that was good and inspiring, and then you see other people out there all over the country that are leaving a bunch of positive comments and saying how awesome you seem and how much they believe that you could do anything and positivity. Do you think that would be inspiring? Do you think you would take that home to wherever you're staying and start going, man, I really do need to do something?
It could, and it's hard to say because hindsight and and all the things, hypotheticals, and it just depends on what point, if I hit a breaking point, because um, like I said, I'm not an outside
It
person.
sounds like you had a plan
Yeah.
and it was just a matter of time.
It wasn't, yeah, kind of a plan. Like I knew, like I need to save up money. Like that was my plan. I'm gonna put all my dollars or all my bills in the bank and change to eat. That was my plan. Like for now, that's what I'm gonna do. Um, and I think eventually, yeah, if I'd gotten rolled that night, I'd had to figure out some other way to save up money to do that, to be able to do that. Because there's no really easy way, especially back then. Um, Visa cards have a limit, whatever, and you got to pay a fee for this, that, and the other. So if I had able to seen you come in and I hadn't hit a point to where I hate people, that I kept having that indignation of people looking down at me, and find an even keel, I think I would have been more inclined to come back in with some help too, because um, being offered the help and asking for help are two different things, especially as a man. Like most males have a hard time asking for help. Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, unless it's like my bones sticking out, like, hey, you know what? Can you give me a ride to the hospital? It kind of hurts a little bit, Guys we're just like that. We're just programmed that way throughout our life to fucking figure it out, do it on our own. Um, because we know we can't rely on others.
I can't tell you how many times I've been like holding a board and trying to screw it in with one hand and doing something awkward as hell, while one of my friends or my brother's standing right behind me, and it's like I'm not asking them.
And they're not offering.
Oh, they're not offering, or they are, and I'm like, no, I got it, I'm good. And then finally, when you're like, this is gonna fail, then finally,
After you keep dropping the drill, trying to hold it or whatever.
then you ask for help.
Exactly. And so imagine that. And so imagine how easy it is just to, hey, can you come hold this? And they're your family.
Yeah.
They're right there next to you. You could ask them for that. It doesn't put them out. They might give you shit because he's your brother. Like, oh, fine. Here I was on TikTok. I guess I'll go help you, right? So imagine flipping that to where you're on the streets. You don't know who you can trust. You can ask, whatever. So having to ask that's a huge leap to ask for help. But getting offered, oh shit, if it's being thrown at me, I might as well say yes. So it's easier to accept it, but it doesn't mean it's easy to accept, because even accepting help amplifies, magnifies, it shows that I couldn't do this on my own. It's still a pride thing. Like, fuck, you know, I'm trying to get off the street and here this guy comes to help me, and motherfuck, god damn it, da 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 da. And the closest thing I can relate to that is recently you helped this lady. She was fuck. What? It's not Anne. That's sticking in my mind because that's the one that I saw today.
The one with the pizza. Oh, you didn't want that much?
No, I got.
I got her pizza.
So
and she walked
okay,
away.
so two. There's one with the pizza, right? That one I think that's more mental health, mental issues. There,
Yeah,
right?
I think there was something like that there.
But there
for
was
sure.
another one. She was sitting at like a little island by I guess it was a light intersection.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, she was worried about her hair because she had a little beanie on. And
A hairbrush.
Okay. It's okay. Don't be sorry. There's nothing wrong. Don't be sorry. Hairbrush?
My hair's all
Okay. To anyone else who's seen that video, there was a hairbrush in the backpack I gave her. I don't think I showed it, but it was there. It was there. She got a
Yeah,
hairbrush.
and so that embarrassment, I felt that because oh man, it's hard to explain because you're inside people, um, and it hurt. I felt it. I relived it. It was a lot that I felt there seeing that video. In that, you know, you're having a genuine person wanting to help you, and it you want to ask for a lot, but at the same time, you don't want to be disappointed again.
Well, and all she really wanted was stuff to take back to her camp,
Mm-hmm.
to share with everybody else, like you would have done in that abandoned house.
Mm-hmm. It's because you can trust them. Your campmates, they may not be a ride or die like a ride or die you want, but you can trust them more than you can trust everyone else. Everyone else, I don't know, but these guys, I trust them a lot more than the world, right? And so that emotion that she was conveying or saying, it felt like she was saying, I want things, but I don't trust that you're going to do them, but I hope you do. And it was like a whole paragraph that she was choking up with. Um, and then just eventually she just had to trust faith. She went that way versus disappearing on you. And
Yeah. Well, and that's when I could tell there was something going on there. And that's why before I went to buy all the stuff, I actually had to go back to my house to get backpacks because I didn't have any in my car. So I ran back to the house, grabbed the backpack and most of the things that she asked for that I knew I had. And then I went right back to that spot and I gave it to her to show her that like I'm real. I'm and she even said, she's like, "Oh wow, you are real." So I wanted just to give you this pack to let you know that I'm real and legit. That has pretty much everything in there. Real. Oh my god, thank you. And then I built a little trust. So then I knew not only was she gonna wait, but now I asked again, are you sure that's all you need? And we went over the list and I don't think she added anything if I remember right. Just went back to what we started with and yeah, it was really cool. It's cool to see people like to be able to show them that they're still good people and you can trust people and don't not to lose your faith in people. I think that's really important. We need to have our faith in others. Um, and I think that that's a big thing for everybody that's out there and something that everyone can remember is it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to rely on a fellow human. We all do want to help each other. Whether we something tells us not to or whatever, we all have that instinct or that feeling that, oh, I should do this, I should help. Oh, but I can't, I'm busy right now, or I have this going on, or oh, they might steal from me, they might hurt me, or whatever. But as long as you feel safe, I feel like it's okay just to offer a little help here or there within your means.
yeah, it sucks because what we mostly see in the world is not helping each other out. We see countries divided. I mean, just on social media, if you're not the same political affiliation as me, then you can unfriend me because clearly you're stupid and you don't deserve to live. Like that's something that I used to push on my podcast. Is we're all human. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter my skin color, your skin color, whatever. It doesn't matter how we were raised or whatever. We're still fucking human. And I have a problem with that because me. Whenever you ask me what are you, I'm Texan, not American. I'm Texan, right? And I need to get away from that. I'm human. I'll keep every now and again I'll say I'm human, but the point is we are all fucking human. We're all here together. Let's make each other's lives easier. And I'm not talking about money. Just be nice to someone.
Yeah.
It make being nice to someone makes their day easier, makes that easier for them to be nice to someone else, and we can make a snowball and just be better all around.
One thing I like to say all the time too is like let's say as going to a restaurant as an example, and your waiter waitress is not like being super cool. They're tense. They're like you think they might be having a bad day. Well, instead of tipping them less and being frustrated with having bad service, maybe just take a second to ask them, "How are you doing?" Like not just, "Hey, how are you?" Like no, really, what's going on with you today? How are you? Like is everything cool? Introduce yourself. Just engage in a good conversation with somebody, and that can make a big difference in people's lives. We don't do that enough anymore.
It's funny you say that because I used to be service. I used to be a bartender. So usually when I come in, I like make sure I talk to my waiter or waitress, and most places they kind of give you their name. Like so, I make sure, hey, blah blah blah. It's your. Did you say it's this or did you say Ashley? How do you spell it? Like just kind of a little bit of banter with them. For the most part, for me, yeah, it's me flirting. But at the same time, it's me trying to just make their day a little better. Like, hey, flirting with them, make them feel like they're still attractive to people even when they're at work, right? And they may not want that, sure, whatever. That could be creeperish. Some people might see that, might say that it's that. But on the other hand, I still check in with them, like, hey, you're all right, you're in the weeds or whatever. It's just a term that they're fucking swamped, right? And just work with them, let them know that I know what they're going through. Like, hey, take your time. You can come back to us later. Just bring us a refill, and we're good. Just you know, catch up on your side, or catch up on what you got to do. We're still here. We're not gonna. I'm not gonna hold it against you that you're late with the food. As long as the food shows up, I'm good.
What would be your message to people out there as far as, how you went from looking down on people in tough having hard times, homeless people, people living outside, to a different perspective after being through it. And what would your message be to everybody?
Next time you see a homeless person, don't expect it to be a bad situation or whatever. And just imagine, what if it was your parents, your child, your siblings? Would you treat them the same way? And that's helped me shift a lot of perspectives for myself as to getting into other people's heads and understanding, hey, maybe they're just having a bad day. Treat them as you would a family member. And so that's why I always end my podcast with, I love you. You are worthy of it. Don't forget that.
Who we are. I'm just me and you're just you. And, that's all we need to be. And as a team, we can all make this world a better place. That's why I like to call it Team Just Us, because, we're together we can do a lot.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I think that's it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in and making all this possible. Plenty more episodes coming. Can't wait to share them with you guys. I think maybe one thing we might want to do to end the episode, though, man, is if you had to choose between a hug or a handshake, which one would it
I
be?
want a fucking hug, man.
Let's do it, man.
Love you, bro.
You too, man.